Hey there, Hope Lewis here. Um, this is my chapter 1 introduction presentation. Um, Originally, my main topic was supporting students labeled at risk. I'm still trying to stick with that because a lot of my research I've already done. I would like to be able to keep it. But my topic has kind of shifted to school counselors as leaders, bridging the leadership gap with principles to improve outcomes for students labeled at risk. And I basically got to this um, after talking with Dr. Jimerson and kind of going through playing with the chatbot thing, and it kind of pointed me in a direction to have a leadership approach to it. And at that point, I thought I liked the direction it was going in, and I liked the additional layer that it added to it. More so because I did feel like there was a gap in just thinking about how counselors perceive their roles just in general, especially as leaders. But even thinking about the counseling role as um, principals perceive it, and the things that we are assigned to do, our job roles, tasks that we are asked to do within our school context. So um, hopefully I will get to where I'm trying to get to. It's been a little frustrating, but we shall see. So school counseling began in early 1900s with a primary focus on vocational counseling, helping students choose careers based on workforce needs. Um, there was a shift to personal and psychological support in the 1920s and the 1930s. And this was influenced by mental hygiene and child study movements. The role of school counselors shifted to focus more on students' personal adjustment and psychological development. This broadened the scope of counseling, and it laid the foundation for addressing social emotional needs in schools today. The National Defense Education Act of 1958 spurred increased attention to the role of counselors, requiring more formal training and emphasizing their importance in academic success and career readiness. This formulation supported the development of comprehensive school counseling programs. The introduction to comprehensive school counseling programs occurred in the 1980s and in the 1990s. The comprehensive school counseling programs were introduced. They integrated academic, career, and social emotional support. This approach emphasized the need for school counselors to take on leadership roles, setting the stage for data-driven, proactive advocacy that's seen today. The Ask a National model was introduced in the early 2000s, and that marked a critical shift toward data-driven, leadership-focused counseling, positioning school counselors as leaders who advocate for systemic change and equity. My problem statement is educational disparities continue to disproportionately affect marginalized student populations, leading to lower academic achievement and higher dropout rates for students labeled at risk. Despite advances in data tracking, schools still struggle to identify and support these students effectively. While school counselors are positioned to play a key role in addressing these challenges, they are often underutilized due to lack of collaborative leadership and recognition of their potential as leaders. This disconnect limits counselors' ability to contribute to systemic change and support at-risk students. My study aims to explore the barriers and identify leadership strategies that empower school counselors to help close achievement gaps. The purpose of my study is to explore the perception of school counselors regarding their leadership roles, identify leadership practices and organizational policies that can empower them, and uncover the barriers they face in being fully utilized as leaders and closing achievement gaps for students labeled at risk. My study will be guided by 3 research questions. What specific barriers do school counselors face in being fully utilized as leaders to close achievement gaps for students labeled at risk? How do school counselors perceive their role as leaders in supporting these students? And do they feel empowered in this capacity? And 3, what leadership practices and organizational policies can better empower school counselors to act as leaders and close in achievement gaps? So the significance of the study as it relates to leadership teams, it will inform principals and other school leaders about how to better integrate school counselors into leadership roles and collaborative practices. For student achievement, it will provide evidence for the need for increased involvement in decision-making processes that directly affect student outcomes. And for organizational structures, it will highlight the importance of creating organizational support structures that enable school counselors to practice leadership and advocacy practices effectively. So the 2 frameworks that I have done research on so far is multicultural and social justice leadership. This framework is grounded in research by Ratz and Greenleaf. This framework emphasizes the responsibility of school counselors to address issues of power, privilege, and oppression that affect students, particularly those from marginalized groups. And also the social justice approach. School counselors can go beyond addressing individual student needs to actively challenging the systemic barriers that disproportionately impact students labeled at risk. But I'm also looking at doing distributive leadership, not doing all 3, but more so trying to see if there's one particular framework that would go best with my work rather than trying to focus on all 3. But mainly because the distributive leadership kind of goes with my research questions and the purpose of my study. Thank you for listening, and I appreciate your feedback.